It is the height of hypocrisy when someone criticises something for what something else, when someone criticises another person for what they've done, but they have behaved in exactly the same way. It'd be like if I was abusive of women and then stood up for the case around domestic violence and suggested that all men should be, as I did in a recent post, suggest that all men should be retained if they are a threat to their partner. So even though this conversation isn't about that, this conversation actually is about the Liberal Party being so critical of the Labor Party for their release of detainees. Now, this has come to the fore recently where it has been disclosed that the Liberal Party under Peter Dutton released an individual from detention, didn't have an ankle bracelet or any other monitoring system, and went out and committed a grievous crime against a 73 or 74-year-old woman. Now, there's been very little coverage of this. There was an article in the Sydney Morning Herald, and it was mentioned just briefly with Angus Taylor on the Sunday program on the ABC. David Spears asked Angus Taylor a very innocuous question in relation to this, didn't pursue it at all, didn't hold Angus Taylor's feet to the fire. In fact, he kind of just washed over the issue and then moved on. However, this is an important issue because there's been heaps and heaps of criticism of the Labor government in relation to the High Court ruling that has allowed 153 people to be released into the community. Now, if you do the same thing, if you were a party to the same thing for which you're criticising someone else for, then that is the height of hypocrisy. And that's what we're witnessing here in this particular case. And there's this article in the Sydney Morning Herald, detainee released by Coalition, one of the trio accused of attack on the grandmother. A second man accused of a brutal attack on a Perth grandmother in a case that sparked furor over the migration system was released from federal detention in the early 2020 when opposition leader Peter Dutton was Minister for Home Affairs. The man, Sayed Yunus Tahami, is accused of joining fellow asylum seeker Majid Dukhakan in the aggravated assault and robbery in April 16th that left Nanette Simmons, 73, suffering severe injuries that were shown in graphic images across the national media. Now, my issue here is that this issue needs to be raised to demonstrate the political hypocrisy that sits around politicians in general, and I'm not just suggesting the Liberal Party in particular, I'm sure this will happen on the Labor side as well, but at least to own your mistakes, to say, well, I made a mistake back then and I will wear that. I think that what's happened here is that the Liberal Party have found themselves so much in the shit over this particular issue that they can't retract any statements that they've made against the Labor government for their release of detainees because the circumstances were different. The circumstances which were around the Labor Party releasing detainees was because of a High Court decision. No one has given an explanation as to what happened with regard to these particular detainees that were released under Dutton. There certainly wasn't a High Court decision. So the Liberal Party have been very firm in criticising the Labor government for simply the release. So what are the reasons why the Liberal Party, under Peter Dutton, chose to release these individuals? That question has not been answered. And Dutton should be answering that question. There should be media, journalists, everybody should be at least trying to find out what the answer is for that or what solution or answer Dutton can provide. Clearly there is none. So don't go after the ministers in this area if you yourself have performed the same behaviour. And it goes on to say, Federal Court revealed a key government decision in January 2020 led Commonwealth authorities to release Tahami into the community after he had spent time in prison and immigration facilities. This is the key government decision, not a High Court government decision, raising questions about why he was kept in detention. There was no reason given, just like that, there was no reason given for this man's release. Court records also show that Tahami was charged with a string of offences after the coalition government released him from detention, leading to him being fined for drug possession and driving under the influence of illicit drugs. Dutton, and this is my point, Dutton has slammed Labor for releasing 153 detainees in the community despite their criminal histories after a contentious High Court ruling in November ended years of indefinite detention for people who could not be deported to their home countries. Blaming the government for being negligent, reckless and hopeless in its response to the High Court decision, Dutton has accused Prime Minister Anthony Albanese of undermining safety because convicted criminals were released into the community. The first charge of the Prime Minister of our country is to keep people safe, not to put them in harm's way, and that's what happened with Nanette, the opposition leader said last week. People are right to be angry about it and upset. Dutton they made an effort to contact Dutton, but there has been no response. I wonder why. Wonder why he hasn't responded. Silly bastard that he is. The release of Tahami under a coalition government heightens the public policy debate about who takes responsibility for crimes committed after detainees are freed. And I guess the primary issue is that and I certainly believe in this, that we should find a way to release some of these detainees. Certainly detainees who have not committed severe crimes should be released, and the majority of those 153 are those people, even though the Liberal government will tend to focus on those that have committed rape, those that are pedophiles, those that have committed other nefarious crimes, and rightfully so in that sense. But a majority of them were not. So a lot of those people should have been released. They can't be detained forever under our regulations, and so being released is the way to go. But the question really remains as to what happened with these guys that were released under Dutton. Why isn't it that he isn't being held responsible in the same way that he's trying to hold the Labor government responsible for the court order that was issued in November last year? The answers to that, I do not know. But I think that it's an issue that should continue to be raised. And I'm sure when question time starts tomorrow and the Liberal Party choose to have a go at the Labor Party for the release of detainees, as they did in the last sitting, I'm actually curious as to whether they'll do that at all, given what's happened recently. They will be hypocritical, and they certainly will find that the Labor Party, particularly Albanese, will tend to want to have a go at them for their own hypocrisy in this area, given that the Labor Party have a justifiable reason, namely the High Court, for releasing these people, whereas Dutton has no defence whatsoever. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Should more be said about all of this? Should our arms be, thinking, Jesus Christ, we need to do something about all of these detainees? Or should we be a little bit more circumspect? Let me know in the comments below. And remember to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell for further notifications. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, make sure that you and the people that you love are safe.